Community Media, its management, staff, or affiliates of WBOK.
Hello and welcome to this edition of the Cars 101, the Living Class. Today we're talking Politics 101 with my good friend and colleague, Dr. George Embody. Dr. Embody, greetings and welcome, my friend. How you been?
Greetings. Been doing good. Doing good.
Yes, indeed. There are a number of things on the horizon today that we've got to talk about, which are also important. In particular, on the international arena, the global front, we want to talk about the war. And also, we want to talk about some things here in state and local politics. In particular, the nature of what's going on with the clerk's office, the judges, and also the redistricting, because that becomes very, 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 very important to our listeners. And so let's begin with the global arena and let's discuss this war. Whether it's a war in semantics, whether it's war, whether it's the grammar, war is a war.
Yeah.
So, yes, sir.
Well, with respect to the U.S.-Iran war, the thing that has come into play, first and foremost, in terms of predicting what's going to happen, last time I said we can't do that because we never get the true story of what's going on. Now we're being told again that there's about to be a concession and a settlement, but until it happens, I won't believe it. But the issue here has to do with presidential power and congressional power. And we know that constitutionally, the Congress has the power to declare war, but the president, as commander-in-chief, can protect the citizens from imminent threats, which last time I didn't see the Iran conflict as an imminent threat, but that's the way President Trump is defining it. So the issue is around the War Powers Act that was instituted in the Vietnam War because we couldn't get out of the Vietnam War. I was in sixth grade, and then I was in my first and second year of graduate school, and the Vietnam War was still going on, which they didn't call it a war. But here, the question was put into play that after 60 days or so, that is the responsibility of the president to go back to Congress, who has the power, and say that with their opinion about it. In this particular case, the technicality is the Trump administration is saying, well, during the time that there's a ceasefire, it's really, you can't count that time. So in other words, if we're in a war and I'm shooting my gun and we pause to stop shooting, then I'm not in a war, which is insane. It's insane logic because, and I go by this, that the military who are in the Strait of Hormuz and other places, they're getting a certain special kind of pay. They're getting war pay, conflict pay. They're getting, so if you're paying people to be in a war zone and that, and then there's been exchange of gunfire. So basically the bottom line of it is that the president does not want any scrutiny with respect to what he does.
But is this not the nature of every president? Because no president has really concurred with the nature of the War Powers Act, Democrat or Republican.
Well, in some regards, I blame the Congress because the Congress has conveniently allowed the president to put his name on the block, and therefore when elections come up, they can say, well, we didn't do it. So since World War II, 88% of the conflicts that we've been in are undeclared, and they've been led by the president. So they're convenient with, but this is a different kind of thing because of the impact it's having on gas prices, it's on the economies around the world. It's causing havoc, and so the Congress wants to weigh in on this. It's not, and the reason why they're not is because Trump doesn't want any scrutiny on what he's doing. He wants to be able to put out the propaganda about the success. Now we're saying it's going to be settled. It's going to be, and without being challenged, without being from not only his party but definitely
Well,
from the opposition.
let me just cut to the chase. Let's bottom line this thing out. Who's winning?
Who's winning
Who is winning?
out of
The conflict in the Middle East. Yes.
Well, no one's winning per se. We're we're losing in some regards when we have to go to the pump and they're talking about gas $5 a gallon. Then the American people are losing that side of the war. But in terms of now we find out, for one, that they do have some military capabilities, and secondly, they also have the nuclear stuff that's still there. So we were told that all of that was eliminated. So in terms of winning, if we go back to the Vietnam War, the counts in terms of body counts, the counts in terms of who've been captured, as long as we're in this war, the length of time, we're losing.
Well, I would submit to you that at this given point in time that militarily the U.S. has not won, and diplomatically the U.S. has not won.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so and that as a result of that, how does one get out without saving face? Without losing face? Yes, sir. On both sides.
Once again, what the strategy of the Trump administration is to not have any scrutiny about what he's doing, and to come out and say, how many times we've heard they have no Navy, they have no Army. The bottom line is they're not able to guarantee or make companies or countries secure about going through the Straits of Hormuz. And that is a defeat on our part. And the longer we're in and the worse it gets to our economy, we're losing.
Well, I would submit to you that the big question was that, well, one of the primary questions of getting to the conflict was that we want to end the nuclear capability of Iran. Mm-hmm. Well, guess what? Iran has discovered that the American and the world has discovered that Iran has another nuclear weapon, and that's control of the Strait.
Yeah. But also,
Yes.
also the nuclear supply chain still survive. So not only is the power of the Straits there, but literally they still have some capabilities to further develop a nuclear weapon.
And we heard Secretary Rubio get on Rubio get on the air the other day. Talk about the nature of trying to bring China into the fold, saying China needs to be a good faith partner because China is an export economy, and that China needs to exert its influence. But the quest again, what I would think that America needs to understand is that Chinese, the Middle East, these people are prepared for hardship. and they can endure, unlike the Westerners, and in particular the United States. Yes, sir. So why should they engage?
Well, if
that's the question I ask of you.
If they engage, and we know how this game works,
yes, sir,
they're going to get something in return.
Which is a requirement.
Yeah, so they're going to get
something.
Yes. Yeah, they're going to get something in return.
So we need to offer them something of value in return.
That's right. That's right.
Yes.
Okay. So the people that we talked about, about the rhetoric from the COVID, and the Chinese started it and all of that. And the same thing, he's begging the Germans and others to take on this fight. And they're not there saying, you got to be crazy.
When you pick conflicts with every entity in the world and then expect them to come to your support in a war that you choose, my goodness.
Yes.
You wonder, where is diplomacy? Well, before we move to the next phase, there are some individuals who are questioning the mental capacity and veracity, should we say, of this president, and being able to finish a goal and
Well,
a statement. Yes, sir.
he still hasn't released his IQ. I mean, there are rumors that the Penn State released it and it was 73. But, if you look at it, they'll say, well, no, that's not true. It's false. But he hasn't released it.
But let's talk.
So that's separate and apart from whatever. That's what we call, we don't want a president that is the developmentally challenged. I mean,
But that is what he said.
Yeah,
that is what this president said when he attacked Biden.
Absolutely.
Well,
Absolutely.
let's move into the next to some state and local politics, which is harder than the global politics,
Okay.
and most important, and deserves some of your professional scrutiny and analysis. Let's look at initially at what's taking place with the clerk's office. You're in office. You're the clerk. There are those who believe that with Calvin that was indeed an atrocity. And if you can talk to us about the analysis in terms of how you see that clerk of course position. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Well, I see it. Let's go with the logic of the state legislature
Okay, talk to
and the
us.
governor. The logic is that there are too many judgeships in the state of Louisiana, in Orleans Parish, and that there's a need for a consolidation of the judgeships and a consolidation of the clerks' offices. Well, even though they did not do the homework to justify what they're doing, it's obvious to me that the reason why it's being done is for racial reasons. If you look at the 64 parishes, Orleans Parish and possibly Baton Rouge are the only ones that really have black judges on the bench. And what they're doing now is attacking the justice system that's responding. It is part of a large coordinated effort to attack blacks, period. And in this particular case, with respect to the judges, the question that I raise, if you're consolidating the judgeships and you identify the divisions that you're going to eliminate, which correspond to people who've been elected, and you decide which clerk you're going to eliminate, to me, it's a violation of state law to be able to select judges for the people. And it's a violation of state law to select the clerk for the people. Louisiana Statute 522 says these are elected positions. These people were elected. So how you arbitrarily says, I'm going to consolidate, but I'm going to get rid of Section N, Section M. Oh, and with the clerk office, I'm going to get rid of the criminal clerk. To me, you have violated state constitutional law, because at the very least, if you consolidate the positions, there should be an election so that the people can weigh in to who they want in those positions. The budgetary argument I don't buy, because the homework wasn't done. But constitutionally, and with respect to Mr. Duncan himself, I personally, and I'm not a lawyer, my dad has practiced law, and all of his kids practice law under his license. But constitutionally, I think it's a violation of the Constitution ex post facto law. In other words, you cannot increase a penalty for someone who committed a criminal crime after the fact. I mean, once again, Liz Murrow came in and said, if he goes back and challenge, because he took a plea, he was innocent, but he took the plea to be released early. But she's saying, if he goes back and do that, then I'm going to retry him, which kind of sounds like double jeopardy as well. So to me, legally, and I say that cautiously because with the Supreme Court decision on gerrymandering, I wonder if we really have a judicial system, or whether the judicial system, particularly at the Supreme Court level and at the state level, has collapsed into political rather than legal decisions.
Yes, sir. And so New Orleans now is like other municipalities, which are in our state, which are black and dominated, the majority, should I say, is under siege
Absolutely.
and under attack.
Absolutely.
And the state itself, and I want to, and we need to pay particular attention to this and recognize what is happening. Now let's look directly now at this whole thing. I know this is something.
Let me just
yes,
say
sir.
one
Yeah,
more
continue.
thing about
Yes,
this
sir.
issue, and that is
Yes,
the
sir.
fact that we need a strategy for dealing with this, and I think legally is the strategy for dealing with it. But they have. Well, I'm gonna let you go ahead.
No. Well, you're right about the strategy. I know when I talk to members of the state legislative Black Caucus, they say their mantra is what we cannot legislate, we litigate.
Yeah. Well, I
Yes,
know what I
sir.
wanted to say.
Yes, sir.
Is that in the East Baton Rouge and in New Orleans, you've had some black judges, but the other 62 parishes or so, they have the number of judges. We talk about disproportionately to the black populations in those parishes. And one of the problems, and I know Carl Gallman has advocated this for years, but that we need single-member districts for judgeships. As long as you have parish-wide or at-large judgeships, you're going to put those other 62 parishes at risk. And then, of course, with gerrymandering coming into play, you may not be able to even redistrict single member judgeships because of cracking and packing, putting more blacks in a district to eliminate the number of judges, or taking blacks from multiple districts so that you would eliminate the number of the blacks. So this thing is serious. This gerrymandering decision of the U.S. Supreme Court, even though we may win this at some point with Calvin Duncan, we're facing the possibility of the elimination of all black representation and dilution of power based on the latest U.S. Supreme Court that said that Cleo Fields' district was a gerrymandered district. And so, but it seemed to say, but you can do gerrymandering. Now, when I taught political science, gerrymandering was both racial favorite districts and also political party. If you did it just for the sake of political party, you were violating the Voting Rights Act. And now that the Voting Rights Act has been diluted, we need to go back and come up with a strategy. Talk is good, but we need a strategy.
Well, absolutely, and that's a position that we find ourselves that Louisiana finds itself in. In particular, we're now in a position where you discover, as a result of this, the Supreme Court ruling, the latest Supreme Court ruling, that we can go from having two members in the Louisiana, two minority majority districts in Congress people in the U.S. Congress to having none. So the big debate in Congress now is should it be 6-0 or 5-1, whatever it should be? Should you eliminate one district, or should you eliminate two black districts? And
that's a possibility.
And I've seen a plan that's on the table. One plan has the dividing, eliminating the 6th congressional district and dividing the 2nd district, dividing New Orleans Parish up between, so that blacks were in one part of the district and not in the other part of the district, which was, again, part of that compressing cracking approach. Now, what's happening in terms of that is that we see the same sort of plan taking place with Memphis,
right?
Where they're dividing Memphis
Mississippi,
into different parts.
They're talking about eliminating Benny Thompson.
Precisely. Powerful blacks, right, and individuals. And so when you look at that and you see it, that is the conflict that Black America finds itself in.
Yeah. Well,
yes, sir.
I think once again the requirement is we can talk about it, But unless we come up with a strategy, now I will give Mark Morial his prompts because he's come up with an answer. He said, look, we need to say that winning elections with black males. We've made a lot about black females and their participation, but his campaign focuses on registering black males and getting them participating, which I think is admirable, considering that that was the strategy that Trump and his people use in Arizona and every place, with Joe Rogan, with pushing martial arts, pushing WWE, pushing male testosterone, and they were.
Can you win elected black males when they live in a culture where they talk about toxic masculinity?
Well, you can win.
Can you? And my question, I know you can win with it, but can you increase it when you have a culture within the party that talks about toxic masculinity?
Well,
yes, sir.
You mean in terms of
attracting black males to win? Yes.
The counter argument.
More than counter, can you win?
Well,
we know you can win, but can you bring them in? That is the question.
Well, nothing ventured, nothing gained. But you have to have a strategy.
What's the strategy to bring them in?
Well, the strategy to bring them in is to help them to better understand and educate them about gerrymandering and the consequences. And, they're going to see, there are things that are happening right now that they can see are happening. So, my thing is to organize at the on HBCU campuses and to organize in the communities from the grassroots up. The more, and you have to begin to target and sell. You have to put resources. The leaders have to understand that this is part of their survival. I have to be responsible for making sure those in my community and my neighbors or who's coming out to vote, that everyone is responsible for making sure that happens.
And I would suggest to you that, which I think is absolutely correct. I hear many of our leadership speak of this, and they're correct in this regard, and to say that within the Democratic Party and within the party and within the black community itself, we have the votes to win.
Absolutely.
Without even soliciting and increasing individuals. The key is to get the ones you already have to turn out and vote.
And also,
even trying to
we have to go at the grassroots level and speak to their needs and what they would like to see. We can't just be a one every 4 years kind of effort. This has to be ingrained into the community. That's why I like what Mark is doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so and we have to understand the imminent threat of racism. I never forget, and I was at LSUNO, and David Duke came there, and the students with the NAACP there, we developed a forum, and we debated David Duke. Same thing happened with USM with respect to Shockley, who was talking about inferiority, and Spencer, a racist, on the college campuses. Now, I know the students are different. They have a more multiracial mindset. But still, there has to be some engagement at the grassroots level, and there has to be some engagement on the college campuses, especially historically black colleges and universities.
Well, in the last 4 years, in the last federal election cycle, and I imagine you can attest to this. I know I certainly can. Is I had phone calls and said to me, Dr. Clark, did you get any people calling you up about putting signs up from the candidates? I said, not one. First time that I can ever recall as a professor, I did not get any phone calls, not two, not three, not one, about helping the campaign or any campaign or finding students. And what I'm saying is this: I don't think that they reached out as strongly as they should have in the HBCU community in the South. Well, and particularly, I know in my environment. Let me put it that much.
I know that Ashraf did something. He got in a little trouble because you have to do that in such a way that doesn't appear that you're favoring one candidate or the other. but as far as it relates to public service, community service, that's a good angle to get students exposed.
Let me ask you a question. And
Because, I did it in my class.
I just ask you a question. I think there's a lot to be said and made of candidate quality. You have to have good candidates as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because good candidates will bring individuals out to the fold. You need it. Good candidates would end apathy.
Good candidates are candidates got money.
Okay, all right.
So sometimes
that's the
the
number one
good
criteria.
candidates don't coincide with who the powers that be want to finance campaigns.
But that's the number one criteria. Whenever anyone that runs for office, the first thing they look for is your financial capability. That's what recruitment is all about.
Absolutely.
You have to recruit, yes, the
Absolutely.
candidate that can afford to get into the race.
So-
this is real. This
So,
is not some joke.
so that's the
find money people.
that's another one of those things we talk about.
yeah.
But we need to ask the question: how do those who have resources in the black community support the candidates? And secondly, we've seen from Barack Obama and others
yes.
that there are mechanisms, even when you don't have wealthy people, to generate funding if people are committed to an agenda that you're putting out there that support things that they want to see.
Okay, and before we exit, I want to ask you, I want to just mention one thing as well that we have. When you talk to members of the Black Caucus, and some of them have already stated, the Congressional Black Caucus, is that of the 50-some odd members, only like 15 or so of them represent minority majority districts. The majority of them represent districts which are not majority minority districts. So how does that play into your analysis?
Well, I mean,
Yes, sir.
We're once again that it goes back to educating the people,
All right.
redistricting,
Yes.
and getting them involved so that, I mean, there's some thinking that, the census, on one hand, the white supremacists saying that, this is not, it's only 1/3. But when I drive all over the state of Louisiana, I think it's more closer to 50-50.
Which is why we need at least 3 black representatives.
Absolutely.
Not the 2. Anyway, I want to
Absolutely.
thank you for joining me. It's been always a pleasure having you. I mean,
Okay, Doc.
this is good. Boy, when we come back in 30 days, it's going to be a whole different
Yes,
world.
we
Yes,
didn't talk
indeed.
about the mayor. We didn't talk
None of
about
those
the
good
sheriff. But we talked about
Yes,
it.
sir. And it's always fantastic. And again, this is Dr. Parks 101, the Living Classroom. You can follow me on all platforms of social media. As always, it's been a pleasure.